We're giving it 5 days, and then we're going to see where that takes us. And I would say at the end of this period, I think it could very well end up being a very good deal for everybody, as good as if we went all the way and just literally annihilated the place, which if we don't have to do that, that would be a good thing, not a bad thing.
That's the president ordering the Department of War to postpone strikes on Iranian energy sites for 5 days of what he called productive talks toward a resolution with the regime. I spoke with the president yesterday during the program. He told me Iran wants a deal badly. Meanwhile, thousands of U.S. Marines are reportedly set to arrive in the Middle East on Friday. That is the day of the president's deadline for Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz so that he can get oil prices lower. GOP lawmakers, meanwhile, discussing a $200 billion Pentagon ask for the Iran conflict and whether or not they should attach the defense funding money to a potential reconciliation package. Joining me now is Pennsylvania Senator Dave McCormick, a member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and chairman of the Middle East Subcommittee. Senator, great to see you. Thank you so much for being here. And I want to mention that you are a combat veteran. You were a combat veteran. You served in the Army's 82nd Airborne Division in Iraq during the first Gulf War. And of course, we always thank you for your service to this great nation. What are your thoughts on that $200 billion defense package? Will you support it?
Well, I absolutely will support standing behind our men and women in uniform. They're in the middle of they're putting their lives on the line to advance American interest against the biggest sponsor of state terrorism in the world, a country that has vowed to destroy the great Satan. What's in that $200 billion package, or what the package is, matters. So we'll have to look and see what's in there. But it's clear that the nature of warfare is changing dramatically. We saw that in Ukraine. We see it in the Middle East. And America has superior military capability. It's been a magnificent display over the last 3 weeks of military capability. But we need to make sure we maintain that cutting edge. So I'll definitely be standing behind our men and women in uniform. We'll have to see what's in that package.
And of course, we know that Marines are expected, thousands of Marines are expected to arrive in the Middle East on Friday. I mean, from your insights and having been on the ground, what should we expect?
Well, first of all, this idea that there was no contemplation of the Straits of Hormuz and what that would mean for oil prices is crazy. Oil prices went to $200 a barrel during the first Gulf War. So this was certainly part of the contingency of plans. And I think the president is doing everything he should do to maintain optionality. So through a number of economic measures, releasing oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, the IEA release, we're dampening the economic impact, which matters to folks in Pennsylvania if gas is up 50 cents a gallon. We're maintaining maximum military operations, and the military has been fabulous at destroying the missile capability, the drone capability, so keep hammering away at that and maintain lots of other options to ensure that the straits are open and that we can get 20% of the natural gas and oil through those straits. I think that combination of factors is going to work, but you gotta, when you're dealing with the Iranians, you've got to keep the pressure on. You cannot trust any promises. You have to ensure that those promises can be enforced with military capability. And I think that's what the president's doing. I'll say one more point, Maria. If we would have thought on day one, where we're going to be 3 weeks in, we would have welcomed where we are. It's been wildly successful. 3 layers of leadership, absolutely decimating their missile capability, their drone capability. But it's a huge set of capacity they have, and we still have work to do in terms of getting rid of it.
And you're saying that's the point of the Marines on the ground. Make sure you don't have any options off the table.
Absolutely, particularly as it relates to the Straits, and that shouldn't mean, and nobody should interpret that to mean that we're going to get in some extended land war or a quagmire. This is a radically different circumstance, and the president's been very clear on that. This is not Iraq or Afghanistan,
right?
But we need to have maximum optionality in terms of accomplishing the military objectives that the president has set. By
the way, Senator, we've been talking a lot about drone technology. I had 2 drone manufacturers manufacturing in America on Sunday, and we just talked with the co-founder of Anduril. Is that one of the areas that you'd like to see some of that supplemental money go for drone security or mass production of more drones?
Absolutely. Yeah. We have the most sophisticated technology in the world, but we need to create the capacity for mass production so we can deliver those drones and those counteroffenses at a much lower cost. We've done that before. We've got the expertise, but we need to invest in doing that better. And we see that mismatch with the ability of Iran to build this ballistic missile capability. We need to match that production capability, which again, we have the most sophisticated technology in the world. We're seeing that in Ukraine. We're seeing that in Iran. And this gives us a little bit of a roadmap on the things we need to work on.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you think this administration could be doing with regard to efforts to get prices down in terms of oil prices? I mean, you're on the Energy Committee, and you just said, you know, the SPR is the key move, as well as unsanctioning that oil that was at sea, which Treasury Secretary Bessent told us that he would do, and he did, in fact, do it over the weekend.
Yeah, I think well, first of all, thank God we have a strategy of energy dominance. Yeah. Imagine this had we not had President Trump in place. So we're in a radically different spot than we would have been had Biden continued to be president.
Okay.
But now we're moving to the phase of creating maximum supply in the market. So I think they've done a great job of opening up all sorts of opportunities for additional energy capability, energy production. And matching that with the military capability, I think is going to put the pressure. And listen, this is it's going to take a bit of time here. I think if we were talking a month from now, this situation is likely to be resolved. Okay. But it's pain in the short term, and that's unfortunate but necessary to accomplish the incredible military and strategic goal of taking out this military capability of Iran and the ability to kill Americans. Actually,
which is the sentiment that Marcus Lemonis just made a moment ago. We've all been talking about that on set. I got to switch gears and ask you about digital assets. The White House and Senate reportedly reaching a preliminary agreement on digital asset regulation, resolving the clash potentially between banks and crypto firms over the crypto platforms being able to pay rewards or stablecoin yields, marking a potential major breakthrough for the Clarity Act. Senator, you're a member of the Senate Banking Committee, and we spoke with Cynthia Lummis recently on this, and she walked us through how the regulatory framework is still going to be different when you're talking about banks versus crypto platforms. Watch this. What kind of changes might we expect in terms of policy with regard to regulation, Senator?
Well, interestingly, the banks, of course, can have fractional reserves, but under the law, payment coins have to have 100% hard asset-backed reserves. So it's really not necessary that FDIC insurance be at the same level for payment stablecoins as it is for fractionally reserved banking institutions. It's going to take a while for people to see the difference, but I think we'll find that we can integrate a very robust payment stablecoin system without the full insurance that goes with being FDIC insured.
So, Senator, I want to get your take on that, because the banks will push back and the banks will say, wait a second, you're allowing, you know, the stablecoin players to pay rewards, and they're doing it now because, you know, they can, because through a third party, and some people call it a loophole in Genius. But anyway, if you, others say there's no loophole in Genius, but, you know, if the stablecoin players are allowed to do that and money comes out of traditional banking accounts, and yet the crypto players are not going to see any more regulation, right? I mean, they're not FDIC insured, just like Cynthia Lummis just told us.
Well, I haven't seen the text, but I've been a part of a number of meetings where it feels like we're nearing a solution, which I think is absolutely necessary. We've got to have a regulatory framework we pass into law. This is a huge source of growth and innovation for the country. I think there's a broad-based agreement on activity-based rewards, which is going to be a key part of that. And it's absolutely the case that with stablecoin, you need a 1-to-1 ratio versus fractional reserves in the banks, and that's really important for the community banks and people in Pennsylvania, because that allows them to lend to farms and small businesses and so forth. So I'm not sure what the final resolution of that's going to be, but I think there's a growing agreement that we're nearing a solution. And listen, it's probably going to be one of these deals where nobody's going to be entirely happy with everything.
Yeah.
But everybody recognizes that we've got to get this regulatory framework in place, and the certainty, the consumer protection, or the moment might pass us. And we saw what could happen to crypto and blockchain under the last administration, when you didn't have legislation laying out a clear set of guidelines for how this industry can grow and prosper here in the United States.
So we got the contours of the crypto package this morning. Are you expecting a markup soon?
I honestly, I'm not sure. I haven't seen those contours. I haven't seen what the White House has released.
Okay.
But I know Chairman Scott wants to move on this as soon as there's agreement.
Okay.
And when everybody sits around the table and everybody says we're in, I think we'll move forward. There was a lot of negotiation within the banking committee.
Yep.
And that, based on the meeting I was in last week, seems to have been resolved by lots of good work by a number of the members of the banking committee and the chairman. And
real quick before you go, I'm sorry to interrupt. We're jamming on time. Is the Kevin Warsh confirmation hearing still on pause?
Well, I think we're getting closer on that. He's making his visits around the Hill. I think I'm going to see him today or tomorrow. He's a superb candidate. I know him well. He's going to be an excellent chairman. He's going to pass through the Senate. And the open issues that have him on hold at the moment, I think, will be resolved. And I know the White House and others are working hard to make sure that's happening.
Well,
I think the market should.
You got to get your colleague Tom Tillis to say that, right?
Well, I think we're moving in the right direction on that. I really do.
Senator, it's great to see you. Thanks so much for taking all of that on. We so appreciate you.
Thank you.
Senator Dave McCormick. We'll be right back.